Most people don't fear failure. They fear what comes after success. They fear what it demands, what it changes, and who they'll have to become once they achieve it. Carl Jung believed that the greatest battle a person faces isn't between good and evil, but between who they are and who they could be. Success, in that sense, isn't just an achievement. It's a confrontation. When you succeed, you face your potential. And most people can't handle that reflection. You see, failure is safe. It's familiar. It gives you an identity to hide behind. I almost made it. It just wasn't the right time. Those lines protect you from the terrifying responsibility of actually becoming powerful. Because success doesn't just give, it demands. It demands consistency, discipline, and identity. People who fear success don't lack ambition. They lack permission. Permission to be seen, to outgrow their environment, to disappoint the people who preferred them small. Somewhere deep down, they equate visibility with danger. Maybe as children, standing out brought judgment. Maybe confidence was mocked. Maybe early wins were punished with envy or rejection. So they learned something subtle. Staying unseen is safer than being celebrated. That's the root of this fear. Success threatens the comfort of invisibility. Jung would call this a confrontation with the shadow of greatness. We often talk about shadow as the dark, repressed side of ourselves: anger, lust, greed. But there's another form of shadow people rarely mention: the light we refuse to claim, the talent, the intelligence, the beauty, the potential we downplay because it feels arrogant or unsafe to own. This is what Jung called the golden shadow. The parts of your brilliance you've disowned. When you start succeeding, those disowned parts return, and they scare you more than your failures ever did. That's why self-sabotage feels almost involuntary. Right before something great happens, you suddenly lose motivation, doubt your abilities, or distract yourself. It's not laziness, it's self-protection. Success means exposure, and exposure means risk. The mind whispers, "What if I can't handle it?" But beneath that question hides a deeper fear. What if I can? Because if you can, then you no longer have excuses. You can no longer say, "I could have been something." You either are or you aren't. And that realization terrifies the ego. Failure preserves identity. Success destroys it. Jung said that all transformation requires death, not literal death, but the death of who you were before. Success demands the same thing. It requires you to shed your small self, your safe self, the version of you that others found convenient. And not everyone around you will clap when you do. People who knew you as insecure or unfulfilled will feel uncomfortable when you start changing. Your growth reminds them of their stagnation. That's why some will distance themselves, others will criticize, and a few will silently hope you fall. If you fear success, it's not because you doubt your ability. It's because you sense the loneliness that may follow it. You know that climbing higher means leaving certain things behind: habits, people, comfort zones, even identities. Jung would say that this fear isn't irrational. It's symbolic. Success represents individuation, the process of becoming your full, separate self. It means stepping out of the collective expectations of your family, society, and culture, and saying, "This is who I am," even if it isolates me. That's what most people can't bear: the isolation of authenticity. So they stay busy dreaming instead of doing. They love talking about potential, because potential is pure. It can't fail. Once it becomes real, it becomes vulnerable. That's the paradox. People aren't afraid of falling. They're afraid of being seen flying. Because if you fall after flying, it hurts more than never trying at all. The ones who fear success are not cowards. They are overthinkers, deep feelers. People who sense the weight of consequences before others do. They see that success won't fix their emptiness. It will expose it. Because once you reach the top, there's nowhere left to hide. That's why Jung said, "There is no coming to consciousness without pain." Success is one of those awakenings. It burns away illusions. It forces you to face how much you've outgrown your excuses. And when that moment comes, when everything you wanted starts showing up, your mind doesn't celebrate. It resists. Because every step toward success is a step away from safety. That's why the ones who could go far often stop right before they do. Not because they don't deserve it, but because they've never learned how to feel safe in expansion. The mind has two instincts: survive or evolve. The first keeps you alive. The second makes you powerful. Most people never make it past survival. People who fear success don't run from goals. They run from what goals awaken. Every small step forward shines light on their old beliefs, and those beliefs start to tremble. Jung said that the unconscious doesn't like change. It clings to what it knows, even if what it knows is pain. That's why progress can feel like danger. When something good begins to happen, a promotion, recognition, an opportunity, a hidden voice inside whispers, "You don't deserve this." That voice isn't logic. It's memory. It's the internalized echo of every moment you were made to feel unworthy. The mind confuses comfort with safety. So anything that threatens the old self, even success, feels like a threat. This is the paradox of self-sabotage. You don't destroy your progress because you want to fail. You destroy it because success feels unfamiliar. The nervous system equates the unknown with danger. You've lived so long with struggle that peace feels wrong. Achievement feels heavy, and confidence feels like arrogance. The fear of success is, in truth, the fear of expansion. You've been conditioned to exist within limits, limits that kept you small, predictable, manageable. Every human being has an invisible threshold, a point beyond which growth starts to feel unsafe. Cross that line, and the mind panics. It starts creating distractions, procrastination, overthinking, perfectionism, sudden exhaustion. These are not flaws. They are defense mechanisms. Jung would say that this is the shadow in motion, the part of you that believes greatness equals danger. Somewhere in your past, the bright parts of you were punished. The times you spoke with confidence, you were called arrogant. The times you tried to lead, you were told to calm down. The times you succeeded, someone withdrew love. So your psyche learned that being powerful equals being rejected. Now, every time you move closer to your potential, that memory awakens. The body remembers the pain that followed your brilliance, so it resists the very thing you've been chasing. You're not afraid of success itself. You're afraid of the consequences your past attached to it. That's why so many high achievers secretly self-destruct when things go well. They overcommit, overthink, or push until they burn out. Deep down, they believe happiness must be earned through suffering. It's a moral code the shadow enforces. If you didn't struggle for it, you don't deserve it. And yet, you do. But belief is stronger than truth until you face it. Jung often spoke of integration, bringing the rejected parts of the psyche back into wholeness. To overcome the fear of success, you must integrate your light as much as your darkness. It's not enough to heal your pain. You must also forgive your power. You must allow yourself to be seen, to be envied, to be imperfect, and still deserving. Because here's the deeper truth. Success doesn't create pressure. It reveals it. It shows you the weight you've been carrying all along. When you reach a goal, the external world mirrors your internal state. If you still feel unworthy, every win becomes proof that you're faking it. That's why imposter syndrome thrives even among the successful. You think success will silence your insecurities, but it only amplifies them. Because now you have evidence that you're capable, and that terrifies the part of you that believed you weren't. This is the internal conflict Jung warned about, the battle between the ego, which fears annihilation, and the self, which demands expansion. The ego says, stay small, stay safe. The self whispers, you were made for more. The tension between those voices is what creates anxiety before big moments. Interviews, launches, exams, relationships. It's not fear of failure. It's the friction of transformation. Many people mistake this anxiety for a sign to stop. In truth, it's proof that you're evolving. The psyche resists before it releases. That trembling you feel right before doing something brave, that's the old self dying. The reason most people never reach their potential isn't lack of talent. It's emotional loyalty to their limitations. They don't want to leave behind the version of themselves that everyone else was comfortable with. They fear that success will make them unrelatable, arrogant, or alone. But those are projections, fears belonging to others. not truths belonging to you. You can love people and still outgrow them. You can remain humble while becoming powerful. Growth doesn't mean disconnection. It means discernment. Jung would remind you that individuation, the process of becoming whole, always begins with separation. To step into your higher self, you must step away from your smaller self. And that separation always feels like loss before it feels like freedom. There comes a moment when you realize that success was never the problem. Safety was. You weren't afraid of the goal. You were afraid of what would happen once you reached it. Who would still love you? Who would resent you? Who would you become? Carl Jung said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." But that privilege comes with loss. The loss of your old identity, your comfort, your familiar story. Success demands truth. It strips away the excuses, the personas, the versions of you that kept you small. When you start to win, your mind doesn't celebrate. It panics. The body still expects punishment for shining. The ego searches for new ways to stay grounded, even if that means pulling you back down. That's why right after every major victory, many people feel emptier, not happier. It's not depression. It's displacement. You're standing in a space your old self was never meant to occupy. This is the stage where transformation begins. When you stop trying to handle success and start allowing it. True success is not about control. It's about integration. The more you try to prove you deserve it, the faster you lose your peace. Because the ego measures worth through doing, but the self measures worth through being. You don't have to keep running to earn what's already yours. The fear of success melts only when you realize that success doesn't change who you are. It reveals who you've always been, beneath the doubt. The light you feared was never external. It was your own. Jung's idea of individuation is exactly this, the union of the shadow and the light. When you integrate your fear of greatness, success stops being a chase and becomes a natural expression of your inner alignment. You stop forcing. You stop overworking. You stop explaining your worth. Instead, you simply exist in your truth, and life adjusts around that frequency. Most people think success is about achievement, but it's really about permission. The moment you give yourself permission to be powerful, confident, and visible without guilt, everything that once scared you begins to feel safe. And yes, you'll lose some people along the way. The ones who loved your wounds may not love your healing. The ones who celebrated your potential may envy your realization. But that's okay. Growth always edits your circle. You're not leaving them behind. You're leaving behind the version of yourself that needed their approval. When you make peace with your success, you stop performing and start embodying. You stop seeking validation, and you begin radiating authenticity. You stop fearing being too much, and you start realizing you were never enough for the wrong environments. Success doesn't separate you from others. It connects you to the parts of humanity that are brave enough to evolve. That's why Jung said, "Who looks outside dreams. Who looks inside awakes." The outer world is just a mirror for how deeply you've accepted yourself. So if you fear success, remember, it's not the mountain you're afraid of. It's your own height. You're scared of seeing how powerful you already are. And once you stop running from that realization, life stops running from you. The true measure of success isn't how high you climb, but how quietly you can stand in your own light without flinching. If this video reached the part of you that keeps sabotaging your own potential, take a moment. Breathe. You're not afraid of success. You're afraid of seeing who you could be without fear. Like this video, if it spoke to your shadow. Share it with someone who hides their brilliance behind humility. And subscribe to Psychatic for more journeys into the unconscious mind. Tell me in the comments, are you chasing success or running from it?